Hey, everybody. Lieutenant Joe Pangaro here for the Blue Heart webcast. So I appreciate the comments that are coming in. And of course, we have a lot of cop haters out there that just like to say cop hating stuff, about a cop show. And, we take them with a grain of salt because in an emergency, we know they're going to dial 911 and want the cops to show up. It's just a reality. I also understand how people can feel negatively about law enforcement when they've had a bad interaction with a law enforcement officer. And the second thing people have bad feelings about is they don't understand constitutionality and how it is applied to law enforcement. In almost no other career is the Constitution so important. It governs the federal and the state constitution, whatever state you're in, governs almost every single thing we do, every action that we take as law enforcement. So I'm going to address first a bad interaction with a police officer or officers. Now, I've been teaching in police academies for 20 years. I have a lot of civilian friends that were always interested in, what are you doing with law enforcement? How many people have you shot? And people just really have a misconceptions about a lot of the things that you and I do as law enforcement people. But what I have seen over and over again, and I think it hurts us as officers, is the verbal way we treat people. Now, as I progressed through the ranks and I ended up as a lieutenant in the administration, one of my jobs was to conduct internal affairs investigations. Now, that's something most cops do not want to do. I saw it as an opportunity to ensure the integrity of my officers and my agency. I didn't want it to be used as a tool by administration to hurt officers they don't like or go after people and favor other people. I refuse to do that. I looked at the incident. We all know the rules. We all know what's right and what's wrong. I knew in my career that if I did something purposefully wrong, that there would be a consequence for it, right? So I made sure that I did things the right way. Now, did I make mistakes? Of course I did. Everybody makes mistakes. And the way I always looked at it was the action the officer took. Was it something they did purposefully to do wrong, to cut corners, to behave in an inappropriate way because that's what they felt like doing? Or, as in our business, law enforcement has a tendency, our work goes sideways sometimes, right? People don't always cooperate. The situation changes. It's dangerous. Activities need to be observed constantly, right? Situational awareness. But one of the things that I saw was that officers, and many of them newer, but certainly even more senior people, had a terrible way of talking to the public. The us versus them, I think, is a natural consequence of a long time on the job, because we do see our work and our individual selves scrutinized at a level that other people are not. And it can be done inappropriately. It can be done wrong. There can be misinterpretations of what we did and meant. And sometimes people are just jerks. Simple as that. They're rude. They're nasty. They don't understand their responsibility in our nation to follow the rules and to obey the lawful orders of law enforcement. And they want to fight with you. They want to wrestle with you. They want to run away from you. They want to disregard you. All of that is difficult. And in certain circumstances, I've even done it myself. You lose your temper when you're trying to interact with somebody and it's going wrong. I had to learn over time that I must remain calm at all times to control the situation. Watch my mouth. Watch the words that come out of my mouth. Watch what I'm saying. I could not let the nonsense that whatever the people were involved in push me to the point of cursing at them, yelling at them, acting inappropriately. That was not the purpose of me being a law enforcement officer, and it took self-control. I had to evaluate how I was behaving. That being said, I do see a lot of officers that, I'm in plain clothes, I'm doing whatever, and I watch the interaction with people. And I have seen a lot of officers be rude. Some be bullies. Some act totally inappropriately. And you say, you know, that person's going to walk away from that interaction and say, those cops are jerks. So I can understand it. At the same time, I've also seen thousands of encounters with people where the cops are perfectly appropriate, professional, and do the right thing. So I don't want you to take away the wrong thing here. I'm not pointing my finger, oh, you guys and girls are all wrong. What I'm saying is we need to be aware of how we come across to people, right? Be aware of what we're doing when we do our job. Of course, there's a time for the command presence. There's a time to be loud. There's a time to grab onto somebody and take control of the situation. Absolutely. But when there's not, you know, stopping mom and the kids because they made an illegal left-hand turn and treating it like you just got, you know, the biggest drug dealer in the world pulled over. It's somebody making a mistake driving their car. If it didn't cause an accident, okay, think about it. Think about how you're interacting with that person, right? And of course, we go by how they interact with us, but we have to be professional. So that's one of the reasons that people can develop a bad connotation of law enforcement. So I'm just saying we need to pay attention to that on our end. The other thing is people don't understand constitutionality of things. And the case in point is recently I saw a lot of activity on the channel that people were watching two particular videos that I have out. One was with a first assistant prosecutor who was explaining how probable cause is developed for a criminal investigation. She was talking about the specific points, the touch tones that are needed by a law enforcement officer to develop probable cause to take particular actions, get a search warrant, make an arrest, all those kind of things. All valid information. This woman was an amazing prosecutor, and she gave me the opportunity to have her come along in some of my classes and teach that probable cause portion. And we recorded it, and it's very helpful. If you haven't seen it, you should go back and see First Assistant Elaine Lachaud give her conversation about probable cause. That, and I talked about using confidential sources of information, CIs, CS, whatever you want to call them, and how using them in criminal investigations can help you get into locations you can't get into as law enforcement, to get information you can't get as a law enforcement officer. It is a tried and true and court-approved activity to use a confidential informant. They're used all the time, using information from concerned citizens, using information from unwitting informants, people that don't even know they're helping you because they're friend with the CI and they're helping the CI get into a place or whatever. What this one person said, and I'm glad people that watch, and like I said, there's a lot of cop haters out there, and they watch and they make comments, negative comments about law enforcement. And it's pretty clear they've had a bad experience, or they don't know what they're talking about, or they're just antisocial. But that's okay. Everyone has an opinion, and I don't mind hearing them. But this person was saying that, you know, using a CI is entrapment every single time. It's not appropriate. You should never do it as cops because it's entrapment. Entrapment is a specific term that means a certain thing. Entrapment means getting someone to do something that they're not ready and willing to do, right? So if you got somebody dealing drugs and you're talking to them and they don't know you're a cop, and you say, listen, my brother's dying of cancer. He's in so much pain, this poor guy, and the doctors won't give him medicine. And, you know, if he just had a couple of Percocets, it would really help him to deal with this horrible pain. Now, this person you're talking to might have a prescription for Percocets, and they hear you talking about the pain your brother's in. And they say, well, listen, you know, I got like 3 bottles of these things because I'll give you a bottle. It's for your brother. Give me $20 to cover the cost. Oh, okay. And you make the deal. Is that a drug dealer? No, that's not a drug dealer. That might be used, it might be looked at as entrapment. You're inducing someone to do something they're not ready, willing, and able to do. They're not out there in the market selling Percocet to people that show up at their house. They were interacting with another human being who told them something about the pain of another person and how what they have could help alleviate that pain. That is a normal human reaction that a decent person would say, listen, if this will help, sure, can have it. Right? That's not a drug dealer. You're getting someone to do something they're not ready, willing, and able to do. So a confidential informant, or a confidential source of information, is somebody who's probably working off charges. They did something themselves. They're trying to get help, and it's in their interest to try and help you. And they know the drug dealer, or the person who's fencing property, or they know someone who's doing burglaries, or whatever crimes they know somebody's involved with. And you reach out to them and say, hey, I need to get information on this person. Can you go, and could you wear a wire? Could you bring another officer along, an undercover officer? Could you go make a purchase for us to help us see if this person's really selling drugs or whatever? And that person decides, yeah, I need the help. I'll do it, right? You're not forcing them to do anything. They don't have to do it. They don't have to work with you. Most people that work with us as informants do so to help themselves. And they become a tool in our investigative tool belt, and how we're going to get into this person's house and see what's going on and find out what they're doing. So you provide them with some money, they go in, the person is regularly selling drugs. You probably have some information about that. They're a heroin dealer. You just can't get into them because you're a cop. Now you got a guy or a girl who says, I need help with my charge. I can go buy from this person. Okay, so you give them some money, they go in, they make a purchase, they come out. They do that a couple of times. That person in the house is not being induced to do something that they're not ready, willing, and able to do. They are selling drugs actively, breaking the law. The use of the informant is developing information for you, the law enforcement officer, to use to fight crime. It is accepted by courts everywhere, right? This is not something in the background, or it's cheating, or it's entrapment. It's not entrapment, right? Nobody's forcing that drug dealer to sell the drugs to the informant. They just can get in the house and you can't. So this is the purpose of what we do and why. And I do suggest that we think about how we're interacting with the public, and understandably that us versus them is brought on by the way society treats us, especially in this modern era. But the reality is we're there to protect and serve, and do the right thing for yourself by treating people the way you'd want to be treated, or the way you'd want your family members to be treated, right? That's all I'm saying. Give it some thought. How am I interacting with the public, and why am I doing that? And the second thing is, know your constitutional requirements for doing things, so that we all stay on the up and up, and we do things fairly and with justice. All right, so I want to thank you all for popping in. I wanted to answer those couple of complaints and just cover these things to make sure we're all staying on the cutting edge, doing the right thing. This is Lieutenant Joe for the Blue Heart Webcast. Remember, like it, follow it, share it, send me comments, tell your friends. It's important for us in law enforcement to have this outlet. See ya.